The bill to live in one of Exeter University's halls has reached another record high this year. On average, it's nearly £4,700. For most students, that's around £1,000 over the maintenance loan they get, meaning they either have to work or get extra cash from their parents.
The university says it's keeping rent as low as it can, but how are Exeter's first years coping with the bills they have to pay? Hazel Morgan reports for Xpression FM.
I'm in Marden Halls on Exeter University campus, and a single room here will cost you £151 a week, and that includes 2 meals a day. And actually, this is one of the cheapest halls on campus. We're now upstairs, and we're in Rachel's room, who's studying classics. And could you show me around your room?
Yeah, sure. Got one of my notice boards here with all my photos from Hayron. My bed, just standard single, quite comfy. 2 desks, one for makeup, of course. A sink, wardrobe, drawers, and a fridge. So yeah, everything I need.
So how are you affording to stay at Marden Hall?
Well, I've got the standard loan, and then my parents are helping me pay the bit more. And I've also got some savings from my gap year. Yeah, I'm doing okay so far. That might change in a few weeks, though.
Okay. Why?
Well, we'll see how the budgeting's going.
Of course. So what do you think you'd do if it wasn't for your parents?
I'd have to get a job. There's no other way about it. But I am lucky enough that they can help me.
When did you last go out?
No one forgets their first year at university, and for most people it's the halls and the people they meet that make their time so special. Ollie was here 2 years ago at Marden Hall, and he is now standing outside his old room. Are the memories flowing back?
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, I remember coming back from a night out and seeing someone being sick just outside my room and walking in there, thumping down my bed. It was just such a great experience, and all the people in here was amazing. I mean, it was definitely for me the people in this halls who were the reason why I stayed at university, really.
But you were paying much less for your accommodation than people are paying now, weren't you?
I think it was about £10 cheaper for me in a twin room here, and but the facilities that we got, which they don't seem to get now, we got free linen every week delivered. We also got free use of washing machine and tumble dryers, which I found out they don't have at all this year, so they're having to pay for all their washing up, which is ridiculous. We also had a common room where the sort of pool table actually worked and was lovely and clean, and a table tennis table that was fully functional, and that was used every day. I mean, I spent most of my Saturdays playing down there.
Now, the average price for a catered hall at Exeter is £4,680 a year. Compare that to the maximum maintenance loan that a student could have got this year, £4,950. The cheapest rates on campus are the 102 twin standard beds in Hope, Lopez or Moberly. They'll cost you just under £3,700. At the other end of the scale, you'll pay more than £6,000 for the most expensive rooms in Holland Hall. But for that, you get an ensuite bathroom and a view. I'm just walking down from Devonshire House, past the 4-room building site, to Streatham Farm, which is where all the campus accommodation is run from. I'm going to be speaking to Gilly Court, who is the Director of Campus Services, and I'm going to be asking her why it is that university accommodation is so expensive.
We provide a whole range of accommodation. I mean, 40% of our catered accommodation, for example, is below £4,500 per year. Within that £4,500, you get all your meals, you get all your bills, your utilities. So the only thing you have to pay for in addition will be your mobile phone bill and your social, or social activities, I should say. So I think there is value within our product currently.
I mean, you say that it's under £4,500, but there's no accommodation actually in Exeter which is under the price of the unassessed maintenance loan. How can the university justify this?
Well, I would actually sort of slightly contradict you there, because I think that some of our accommodation is below that threshold, but it is on that threshold, I will admit. But I think we have to bear in mind that by taking just the criteria of the loans as your economic driver or the factor isn't very realistic. Accommodation is driven by a significant number of other elements, and most of them are fixed costs out of our control. So, for example, utilities, staffing and so on. It's a quite expensive occupation providing student accommodation. I mean, our utilities bill alone is £2 million a year.
I mean, what would you say about the many first years that have to work during the holidays and turn time to afford to live in Exeter and day-to-day life?
I guess if I'm being a little bit controversial, I would suggest that students have always worked. I worked when I was an undergraduate over 20 years ago. I worked to support myself and to supplement what I had a grant at that point. So I guess it's something not significantly new to the student community that they would work to support some other activities. I think there is a concern about how much students are working, if they are doing so, and how many hours they are doing, and if that's impacting obviously on their studying and on their academic work. That of course would be a concern of the university.
Just finally, I was just wondering if the university expects the price of halls to continue to rise.
We are driven by economic factors out of our control, and inflation is quite high at the moment. You'll be aware of this recent headline figures, it's 5.5%. So there are some elements that are out of our control we have to factor into the rents. But we are very conscious of the economic pressures on everybody, so where we can, we're keeping rents as low as we can.
The Guild's Vice President for Welfare is Emma Payne. She's here now. Emma, rents on campus are high. What's the Guild doing to help Exeter students?
Well, I suppose one thing we have to make sure is that we represent our students to the university to make sure that rent prices aren't, subsidising anything else. They are purely there for the rent of your accommodation, and we need to make sure that rent prices do not exceed £5,000 a year. And I mean, that would be extortionate, and we have to make sure that students are able to pay for their accommodation. I mean, if a student can't live in Exeter, then they can't study here, which is a massive issue also.
So Emma, undoubtedly you think the university should do more. As the universities say, it doesn't make a profit on halls, and it's doing all it can to keep the rents down. Aren't the rents just the price students have to pay nowadays to stay in a place like Exeter?
At current, I'm not aware of the breakdown of rent prices and where they go to, what they pay for. And if the university do state that they are purely, for price of, accommodation bills and utility, etc., then that is something that we should question and really look into. And I'm sorry, but I will do that then. That is one thing I will do.
And just in terms of what do you think the university should do? Should they simply work harder, or should they get rid of some of their staff, or even something as simple as turning down the heating during winter time?
Well, I think if you turn down the heating, I think you'll get lots of sad students being very chilly. But it could be, I think, looking at pricing, maybe the university could subsidise some accommodation. Maybe they could look for grants to students that, are struggling to pay for their rooms. I mean, I lived in a twin room in Hope. As you said, it's one of the cheapest on campus, and my parents had to help me out. But, it's not as if they can really afford to, but they had to. So maybe the university should really look at students all across all ranges of home income and try and see what they can do, and if they can offer any sort of grant, or maybe even to subsidise just the little things, maybe giving the little things back, like free washing facilities and more common room activities.
So I mean, as your position as Vice President of Welfare, will you be pushing more for these subsidies to be put in place?
I think it's definitely something we need to bring to the university's attention, that people are struggling to pay for their accommodation, and especially with the private sector as well, being named the most expensive in the southwest. It's accommodation in Exeter in general is a massive issue, and the price is just getting ridiculous, I'd say.